Hello teachers and everyone. We are group 7 and today we're gonna present about common resources and the tragedy of the commons. Our group have 4 members, Vũ Văn Công, Hoàng Phúc Ngọc, Đinh Hà Minh Quân and Nguyễn Như Vũ Việt. In our presentation, we will answer 4 questions. First is, what are common resources and why are they overused? Second is, how the individual rational behavior lead to social inefficiency? And what are real-world examples of the tragedy of the commons? And last one is, what policy measure can address this problem? So first, we need to know what is common resources. Common resources is the resource that everyone can access. They are rival in consumption, meaning that when one person using it is less available for others. They are non-excusable, so it's very hard or impossible for you to prevent people from using it, and there also no clear private ownership, control access. And because of the characteristic, common resources tend to be overused. Individuals receive full benefit from the resource, but the cost is shared by society. As a result, people do not take into account the negative effect on their action imposed on others. This creates a negative externality and lead to overconsumption. This situation also known as a tragedy of the commons. Next will be Kompa.
Okay, so moving on to the how does acting in one's own self-interest sometimes bring inefficient outcomes at the social level. So first we will go to the externalities. So we'll split the story into 2 sides, which is negative and positive. In negative, we know that many factories pollute seas, some rivers, because it's cheaper to do so and they only care about their benefits. So it's only good for them, but not for the society. On the positive side, we know that people are under invest for the vaccination, which is good for everybody. But they don't need to really contribute into the process. So to conclude, it's rational. It's rational for one, but irrational for everybody. For everybody. So next, we will use the free rider problem. So people will benefit without contributing when contribution is individually required. We will go through 2 big reasons. First, public goods like parks, defense, or clean streets get underfunded by government, and also we always have a big question in our mind that why do I need to pay when I can benefit without doing that? So if it individually national non-payment lead to social irrational under provision. And last, we will go to the coordination failures. So people fail to achieve the best outcome because coordination is costly or uncertain. So we will look through an example. 2 factories are trying to pollute the most as they don't want to pay the cleanup cost. Or we can say that they only care about the benefits of themselves, not for everybody. So the lack of coordination keeps society stuck in the worst outcome.
Next, I will be giving out some examples of the tragedy of the commons. First, let's talk about a classic example which I took from TED. Imagine a town with a fish pond with a lot of delicious, healthy and high-value fish, and the people there can go there and fish for free. And imagine there are some fishermen in the town and they come to the pond 2 or 3 times a week to get just enough fish to feed their family. So the amount of fish that they have taken is not that much that it can affect the reproduction of the fish in the pond. And as long as the reproduction rate is stable, the fish they are sustainable and people in the town are happy. But after 6 or 7 years later, when the population of the town has grown and the demand for fish has increased, a man may think that he can take more fish without affecting the others. So one day he takes probably like 20 or 25 fish while he usually just takes 5 fish. Although this benefits him because he can get more fish to feed his family, or he can sell them to buy other types of meat. This may affect the town's fish pond because everyone in the town gets a little bit less fish, and because he took a lot of fish, the reproduction rate of the fish might be weakened. And sooner or later, when people realize his behavior, they will also try to buy better equipment or better fish nets to try to catch more fish as well. And this because they think that if today they do not catch the fish, tomorrow someone else will catch it. So the tragedy happens when the amount of fish caught is greater than the amount that the remaining are able really to reproduce. So sooner or later they will lose all the fish in the pond, and this common resource will become useless and not valuable anymore, and the people in the town will lose their income as well as a source of food. Moving on to a more familiar example, which is the Tolik River in Hanoi. Tolik River was once a clear and vital waterway because it provides both a way to trade, and the water was so clear that the people can even fish or bathe there. It was a common shared by the locals around, and it provides drainage and beauty for the city. But after the 2000s urbanization of Hanoi, more and more people live around the Tolik River, and because there are so many residents, they might as well produce some waste, and they either had 2 choices: to either spend a lot of money to clear the waste, or they can just dump the waste into the river. Although this may benefit them because they do not have to waste any money to clear the waste, but this will slowly intoxicate the river, as you can see. And because the river has approximately about 8 million residents, the tragedy reaches its peak when people dump around 100,000 cubic meters into the river and making it polluted. And now the river is really black and polluted. Fishes float all around the surface because they're dead, obviously. and sewage also flood as well. So Hanoi has lost a beautiful and air conditioning river, and they turned it into a public sewage, which is really dirty and unpleasant to smell. So moving on, it's Vietnam.
So what are the possible measures that the government can do to address this problem? So beforehand, we must acknowledge the role of the governments. As the problems regarding tragedy of the commons arise, as we discussed in our previous discussion about negative externalities, the government must take actions to prevent people from abusing and depleting the shared resources by providing some type of regulations and policies. So, what policies exactly? There are various ways that the government can do to cope with the problem about tragedy of the commons. But due to the time duration of the presentation, we cannot cover all the possible solutions. So one of the most known strategy to deal with this problem is providing limited permits. We must note that these permits can be bought and traded among market participants. So, as you can see in our previous examples that one has discussed, the town's pond. Before, in the past, there are many fishermen that rely on this pond to feed their family, and as they react to incentive, they would take the most advantage out of the pond, and this has causes the pond to be polluted and scarce of and it faces the scarcity of the fish's population. So to cope with this situation, the government can provide the permit to the fishermen, and to our Annie, she bought this permit, and she can now utilize the pond to can use her pond by her will. And so why is this productive and effective? It's because she relies on her private pond for her livelihood, and she has to feed her family, and so she has to conserve and keep the pond being healthy for the fish to stay in. So yeah, the pond was in the past the pond was polluted, and there's a few fishes in it because people are taking they're depleting the resources, and it now become a private pond. It's equally has the same meaning to turning a common good to a private good. So there are other solutions too. Another typical solution is to apply taxes. Taxes can reduce consumption of the common resources. It has proven in many major cities like London and Stockholm that applying toll on roads usage is effective to the congestion problem, as it plays as an important role to be a corrective tax to the congestion problem in those cities. A tax, increases the price of using the road by car drivers. So as people react to this momentum, they have to alter their schedule and they have to pick their son or their daughters in other times of the day. So there can be less people. There can be fewer people on the street, and they can relieve the stress of the tension of the road. So the congestion problem can somewhat improved. Yeah. That is the end of our presentation. We sincerely appreciate your listening and yeah.